Welcome to another life update video. My very own sister described my last life update video as a quote-unquote slog and hard to get through. And she's a pretty patient, open-minded person, so that is saying a lot. So I promise this one will at least be a tiny bit more entertaining. And in my defense, it's been a very long time since I've made a YouTube video, and a lot has happened. Here's a quick recap on what has happened in my life thus far. I am married to my wonderful husband, no longer gay, not a lesbian, Catholic, but in a gay loving way. I moved to a tropical island. I regularly babysit puppies and dogs in need. I'm trying to start post-secondary school, started this course in heritage resource management, but I've always been really anxious about starting post-secondary because of the financial burden and fear of academic failure. Was kind of TikTok famous, not really, but a little bit. And I'm still figuring out how to execute my future dream career and what that should look like. Doing art and stuff, making videos, maybe I'll be YouTube famous and that'll be my career. If you want to watch my extremely long and boring life updates, I'll provide a link. Maybe just put on in the background as to like you're vacuuming, doing homework, shitting, whatever have you. October 1st, I was starting my heritage resource management online course because I wanted to do something that was somewhat academic, because I have mixed feelings about the practicality of art school. Even though I'd really like to go to art school, I think maybe, I don't know, I just want a job. I'm also very passionate about things. I'm rather materialistic. I like collecting things, examining things, making things. I like things, and I especially like old things. I think it's important to preserve our heritage, and I think seeing like famous artworks and sculptures and, you know, artifacts in person, seeing things in person is just such a more enriching experience than just seeing a photo of something from somewhere else. Even though that's great too, I like doing that, but seeing it in person is like, that's so good. That is so good, and I would love to be a part of that. It's an online course, I'll do it online, and then I get an email saying, we're sending you a textbook. Textbook? I thought this was an online course. What do you mean textbook? It's being sent to Vancouver. So I'm like, oh no, what do I do? So I end up going to Vancouver. I have some relatives who needed help moving anyway. So I was like, okay, I can help my relatives move. I can get my textbook and I can see Vancouver, because I was having some serious fall FOMO. I love fall leaves. I love, you know, nice cute little sweaters and all that nice stuff. So the idea of being in a tropical island where there is no fall and missing out on fall entirely gave me the ick. Going to go to Vancouver, going to get my textbook, going to see some fall, going to see some family, help out a bit. It's going to be great. I have a layover in Houston, which was actually quite enjoyable. I go to this cute little area with some vintage stores. Apparently this is like the only cool area in the city, but that's fine. I liked it. It took a while for the Uber driver to find me at the airport because there's like multiple levels. I didn't know what level I was on because I was new to the airport and there's not proper signage. It's just going around and around and around, but she found me. She talked about being a young mom and having kids early and her new partner and his kids, but I guess his kids were kind of in a bad situation with their mom, and now one of the kids walks on all fours and barks like a dog all the time, so kind of weird situation, but she's a very nice lady. And then this other lady, because it was an Uber share, was telling me about how she goes to different schools and does these like anti-bullying seminars, and yeah, it was there's a lot of girl power in that vehicle. And I was asking like, how safe is Houston? Because I always hear like, Houston's dangerous. You gotta be careful in Houston. But they were saying, you know, the girls got each other's back in the city. You just go up to a girl and, you know, say like, hi mom, or hi sister, or like whatever, and they will like have your back. So that was neat. It was actually an overnight layover. My flight was at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I had to sleep overnight at the airport. I've never done that before, but it was kind of a last minute flight. This was the best one I could find, and I was just like, you know, I will just go for it. But the airport was so uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. They had these dinky little seats with these little metal armrests, and it was like, and you couldn't even sleep on the floor because there was a guy vacuuming everywhere. So I feel like they just don't want you sleeping at the airport. They want to discourage that. This is Texas. There is no loitering here. Get yourself a proper hotel room and don't sleep on the ground of the airport like a bum. But I didn't want to get a hotel room. I don't know. I didn't think it would be that bad. If here are people sleeping in overnight in airports, I thought it would be fine, whatever. It sucked. And I didn't have a pillow with me. I was gonna get one here, but then everything is expensive where I live. And I thought, oh, it'd just be the same amount of overpriced in the airport, but it was actually like crazy. The most expensive airport I've ever been to in my entire life. I haven't actually been to really many airports. I've been to more very recently, but for most of my life, I've just been to the Vancouver airport. So that's what I was basing off of. But I did end up getting this teensy tiny pillow that was like in the shape of Texas with like a happy face on it. So that was my pillow, and I didn't really sleep at all. So when I land, I immediately go to my relative's house and help them move because by the time I land, the moving truck was there. It was kind of, a whole ordeal. So I spend all day helping them move, very, very tiring, but it was good to get all that stuff done. I also find out that there was a storage mishap, and the majority of my possessions, many of which were very personal and irreplaceable, were sent to the landfill, which is very distressing because I'm a very materialistic person, as you can tell, because I'm taking a course on heritage resource management, which is all about preserving and collecting things. Figuring out things that I've preserved and collected have been destroyed was not very good. Yes, it's a sensitive topic. Should have brought it up? Probably not. But I consider it kind of a pivotal life experience because I did have a little bit of a hoarding problem too. So I'm trying to look on the bright side and be like, oh, I should have been getting rid of stuff anyways. I was meaning to get rid of stuff. I'm trying to take a more stoic look on things and be like, well, it's unproductive to get upset about it because there's nothing I can do about it. People lose things and fires, hurricanes, all the time. In the end of the day, it is just things, but they were my things and I really like my things. And I did have almost an unhealthy coping mechanism of dealing with things by collecting things, because even as a little girl I would hide in my room and be surrounded by all my toys and my things, and I didn't want to interact with people because, hello, autistic, and I guess autistic people are really obsessed with their things and collecting things and all that have you. It's literally in the DSM-5. I would say until somewhat recently, the vast majority of my time and energy went to making things, obsessing about things, finding things, preserving things, looking at things, fixing things, etc., etc. Which has changed since I met my husband, and I'm trying to put more of my energy into relationships and experiences. And I've always wanted more relationships and experiences, but I didn't have the relationships and experiences that I wanted. Part of it, external circumstances, other part, me just being weird and not sure how to go about getting that. And the more I didn't get what I wanted from my relationships and experiences, the more I began to find comfort in things, because things, they are consistent. Things have a history. They were made with good intentions for a utilitarian purpose or just to bring somebody joy. They were meant to communicate an idea. They become a reflection of the person who now has that thing, becoming a mosaic of their values and experiences and personal taste, and they bring a lot of comfort, and more than anything they are consistent. And unlike people or circumstances, especially in my life, things have been somewhat rocky, I could look to the things that didn't really change besides maybe a certain level of patina and find a bit of consistency and comfort within objects. But since meeting my husband, I've been focused on my relationship with him, his family, my family, our goals, experiences, moving to the Caribbean. I don't really have any of my things in the Caribbean, and before that I was living with his family, and I do miss having a home that's my own, with like all my own things and everything like that. That just feels like mine, because I haven't had that for a little bit, and it was hard giving that up. But I'm really looking forward to building that with my husband in the future, and I think it has been good to kind of take a leap and get out of my comfort zone a bit, because I've always craved adventure, and sometimes you kind of have to choose between two things, and I went with adventure. I like to think that some of my things are still in existence somewhere. Allegedly, they were all thrown into some sort of like garbage mass grave in the Delta, but sometimes they can go through things and sort things and send them to thrift stores. I like to think that there's some like weird guy who likes to collect stuff that's sorting at the dump, and then there's like, oh Larry, they got a live one for you. Oh, Larry's gonna love this. He loves this kind of stuff. Oh, it's a young girl too. Young girl. Sometimes a lot of this time it's old ladies and old men. Oh, if it's a rare one, Larry's gonna love this. And Larry takes my stuff home, and it's somewhere. But I doubt that sentimental people work at the dump. But you know, maybe this man in my mind exists, and my stuff is in a box in his house, and he goes through in a way that may or may not be creepy. Whatever. Kind of like a Kramer or Newman from Seinfeld type of guy, but it's probably all destroyed. Anyway, I also lose my passport, yeah. But on the plus side, I do really enjoy the Vancouver fall weather. Oh my goodness, it was lovely, it was sunny, there was also some rain, and it was beautiful leaves and walking around in cozy sweaters, everything I wanted. It was fabulous. But then I found out I lost my passport. That wasn't good. It was literally like I was on my way to the airport, and it was like, where's my passport? I can't find my passport. So I have to book a new flight and go to the passport office and wait. And then I go get the new passport thing done, pay the non-refundable fee. And just as I'm leaving the passport office, I get a message saying that they found it at the airport. So I start running, I'm running there. And then they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we just deleted it in the system, and once it's deleted in the system, there's no way to retrieve it. So great. So I'm heading home, and I do not want to sleep in the Houston airport again, because I have another overnight layover in Houston. And there's all these hotels surrounding the airport. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's an industry. They have all these hotels, and you go there instead of sleep at the airport, blah, blah, blah. And I find a cheap one, and I go there. But then when I approach this hotel, it doesn't quite feel very safe. It looked like a prison, kind of. There was like glass on the wall of the check-in, and there was, you know, all the people in the parking lot with their pants down, listening to loud music in a way that you wouldn't normally see, if, you know. So yeah, I get my suitcase and I scurry to my room. Thankfully, my room was like extremely close to the check-in desk, so I wasn't having people like look at me with like my suitcase, being a dainty girl all by myself, going to my room in this what may be a dangerous area, in a dangerous motel thing. The room wasn't very nice. That's fine. But I have to say, it was nice to sleep in a bed as opposed to sleeping in the airport. That was very nice. I returned to the Caribbean. I'm ready to start my course, and then I find out that there is a Hurricane Melissa heading towards us, and then it's like, oh, it could be a class 5, and then I look at the, you know, what a class 5 hurricane looks like, and the roofs are blowing off buildings and everything's flooded, and I'm like, okay, great, this is great. It's like, oh golly gee, what are we gonna do? And I start packing my things. I'm watching the hurricane reports, and it's like, oh, it looks like it's coming towards, yeah. I also find these tadpoles in a puddle, which was super nifty, and I, you know, got a bowl of water and I took them home, and that was nice. But it was still, the hurricane was still on my mind. But the hurricane swerves away from us and destroys Jamaica, which isn't good for Jamaica, but good for us, yay. Then we foster this amazing little puppy named Windu. Now, Windu was just the cutest little puppy, oh my goodness, just loved to, you know, do tricks and to walk and to play, just a nice puppy. loved Windu. Taking care of Windu the puppy, and then taking care of the tadpoles, which are turning into frogs, which is super cool to see, watching them grow little legs and little arms. And then we make another little home for them with branches and watch them hop around, and it's all very cute and very cool. Love it. Love frogs. Favorite animal. Amazing experience. So by this point, December is here, Christmas is creeping up, we're getting ready to go back to Vancouver for the holidays. We're both feeling rather homesick. I am missing rainy weather, cute cafes, Japanese food, all that. I was feeling a little bit more sensitive this Christmas, just with all the changes. Also is the first Christmas. I was feeling a little sensitive this Christmas because of all the changes. First Christmas without my grandma since her passing. She would always send me these wonderful Christmas letters that were handwritten, and unfortunately my Christmas letters I no longer had because they're in the landfill in the Delta. Also, my keepsake ornaments were also in the landfill. And my mom and their sisters have been having a really hard time with her will because she had a farm, but she didn't want anybody to sell it. And so they're still working on the thing, and it's been a big stress, and mom is having her own struggles. And so I was feeling a little bit more sensitive, but you know, I love grandma, I miss grandma, and I know she wouldn't want me to be all upset about her missing letters and all that stuff. I still have a good time at home. It was so nice to be home. But getting back to the Caribbean is a slog, and it was especially a slog this time around. There's delays and all this stuff. So no matter what, I was happy to get back just to be off the plane and out of the airports and at home base. We taken a new foster named Disco. Disco was a bit older, and he was very shy and sensitive, struggled with crowds and got overstimulated. I'm like, hello, I relate to that. I rehabilitated Disco. He didn't know how to play with toys. He would have his tail between his legs. He didn't want to be near anybody. It didn't take long for him to warm up, and eventually he was fetching and sitting, and we'd go for nice walks together, and he'd always look up on me with this big I love you look, and he was just the best dog. Oh shoot, Orlando. We went to Orlando. Oh my god. Okay. Go back. I went to Orlando with my husband before going back to Vancouver, and that was a blast. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a huge Florida person. Highways, heat, lack of culture, Disney World, not as much my thing. However, but it was a really fun time, even though I don't like Florida. I wasn't sure what to think of Miami. The mega highways, there was like this, we were going to like the iconic beach area with all the Art Deco architecture, and it was a giant freeway. It's like, imagine if there was a freeway to get to the West End. It doesn't make any sense. Like barren too. Like, I don't know, I heard that Miami was hip and happening, people everywhere, but it was like a ghost town, and it was very strange. Maybe I should visit Miami again. It was just an off day for Miami, I don't know. But we go to Cape Canaveral, which ends up being a dump, and we stay at this hotel, which was not very nice. And there's the type of hotel that people who can barely afford a cruise go to, and there's people with missing teeth who may or may not be homeless most of the time. The people in this hotel, sweatpants, obese, missing teeth, missing hair, and a lot of them were just barely scraping by and could barely afford this budget cruise. And I was walking out of my hotel room, and there was this family freaking out because we're going to miss our cruise, and oh gosh. And then the lady in the elevator with her wig falling off and in the Winnie the Pooh jacket, it was the lady who worked at the front counter was very nice. She was a very patient, good woman. So that was a weird place. But then after that, we go to the Space Museum, which I loved. Again, seeing things in person, seeing the scale of the spaceships. I've never been to anywhere like that before. It was so amazing seeing all these spaceships, and then there's all the kids running around. Love kids, But you know, it did get a little crowded, and it made me go, thank God we're not going to Disney World. Thank God we're not going. Great educational experience, lots of fun. And then we go to Orlando and we go to the dog show. Oh my God, the dog show, it was a feast for the eye. We talked to all the people about their dogs. We met all sorts of dogs. We talked to breeders breeding dogs that we were interested in. We saw them all line up and go in a little circle, and it was great. It was the best thing. It was totally free too. If there is a dog show near you, highly recommend going. It was perfect. And then I go to the Moores Museum in Winter Park, which is like all Comfort Tiffany's, like stained glass stuff. Very beautiful, very cool. And there was this whole chapel that he designed, which was breathtaking. Winter Park I kind of like, but it's also like very boring, kind of nothing ever changes. Williams-Sonoma, coffee shop, nothing funky, interesting, kind of Groundhog Day, pleasant neighborhoody kind of place. Like it better than other areas, but I still wouldn't want to be there for a long period of time, though it was rather quaint, pleasant, and nice. But I do love the kitschiness of Florida. I like visiting. I wouldn't want to stay there for a long time, but visiting, fun, interesting, neat. We go to Vancouver, we come home, I'm taking care of Disco, love Disco, kind of wanted to keep Disco, but I also know that my life is really up in the air and we're going to be moving all these places, and it's best if Disco just has a nice forever home, and that way I can help other dogs. But it was really, really hard saying goodbye to Disco, and he was like, you know, freaking out and crying, and I was crying, and because there's this woman named P who like takes him to the vet, and she was there to pick up Disco, so you know, he saw the van and he saw P and was like, oh my God, there's something's up. P kind of has the energy of, you know, there's that meme of that woman who runs the McDonald's like the army, that's kind of like P. Great woman. Oh shoot, so my online course. So immediately upon being back in the Caribbean, I find out, surprise, surprise, there's an issue with your online course. Apparently, because I tried to pay for it with student loans, I got less time to finish the course than I would have if I would have paid for it out of pocket, which I didn't even know was a thing. I didn't even know that was a possibility. I thought you paid for the course and the course is this long. I didn't think how you paid for it affected how long the course was. I didn't think student aid had the power to decide the deadline. I thought the course was a separate thing and they were just paying for it. I did not anticipate this. So I get a thing saying, hey, your course is almost done, and I'm even thinking I should get an extension anyways, just because it's been such a long time since I've been in school. I might need extra time, blah, 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 blah. And now I don't have any time at all. I'm not able to finish anything. I have to withdraw, so now I have to pay for courses that I didn't finish, which is just lovely. I had so much anxiety about starting school and paying for it and something bad happening, and then a bad thing that I didn't even anticipate happened. And then I know that I can get student loans again, because if you withdraw twice or fail twice, you're done. You can never get student loans, but you do have a second chance. So I'm like, great, I can just do it again. But then I figure out that I have to pay for a whole year myself before I can be eligible again. So I'm like, oh, this is just nifty. This is great. So yeah, that was extremely discouraging, but I'm like, I've committed to this heritage resource management. I want to see if I can do the heritage resource management. I want to rise to the occasion and finish my heritage resource management course. So I don't know. I'll figure something out. So I've been a little bit unsure about things, doing art, taking care of dogs. I'm currently taking care of a dog named Upton, another shy black dog sweetheart. San Antonio. I went to San Antonio with my mom February 1st. I completely forgot to mention it because my mind was in doggy daycare tunnel vision mode. I was just talking about the dogs. But San Antonio, that was a fabulous experience. I loved going to San Antonio. I loved the museums. I loved the old architecture. I loved the missions, as some of the oldest Catholic missions there. But they're kind of surrounded by the hood. It's very strange. And then there's also a golf course and a private school. Something to do with poor zoning. It was kind of weird to get to without a car, but I really enjoyed my time. The San Antonio Art Museum was amazing. And despite wanting to take whatever museum studies, heritage resource management thing, I haven't actually been to too many museums that weren't the Vancouver Museum of Art, so it was really cool to see that. We didn't go to too many restaurants because my mom was on a budget. She ran the trip in some kind of hot tub store raffle thing, and we mostly just ate at the Kickback, which is free food at the hotel. They had free breakfast and this thing called Kickback, which had like, you know, instant mashed potatoes, cherry tomatoes, lettuce, and sometimes some kind of rotating dish. But it was fine. We went to a really nice Mexican restaurant that my husband treated us to, thank you. And there was a mariachi band that night, which was super neat and cool. I like Texas. It's a true melting pot. It has a cool vibe, especially in San Antonio. There is a Spanish influence. There is a German influence. I went to the oldest restaurant in San Antonio and it had German food. It was an amazing restaurant. It might be my new favorite restaurant of all time. And the staff was so kind. And then, of course, there's the American Western cowboy influence. It just seems like all sorts of people move to Texas for different reasons, people with different beliefs, bohemians, artists, conservatives, cowboys. Everybody goes to Texas. Well, not everybody, but a lot of different people go to Texas. I don't agree with everything Texas does, but Texas as a whole, I like the vibe. It's interesting. And San Antonio, I think, is due for a bit of a revival. It has so many interesting things happening there, and it's cheap. So an artist or, someone doing something interesting can actually afford to be there. Not a super stylish city as of yet. Maybe it'll turn to a stylish city. I was definitely the most stylish person there. I went into this cool store called Roll Fast Ranchwear. It had some very stylish stuff, but it was owned by a husband-wife duo, super cool. And I go there the first day and it was run by his wife that day, and I see the shirt I want, and I go back a different day to pick up the shirt, and his husband's there, and his husband's like, oh my God, I think my wife told me about you, and you were the one who was wearing the super cool vintage cardigan. And I'm like, it's like, oh my goodness, that was me. And usually, like, if it was New York, nobody'd be like, oh my God, today I saw somebody wearing a super cool cardigan. No, but it stood out in San Antonio because, it's not, I would say it wasn't a super fashionable place. But that's okay. I loved Roll Fast Ranchwear. I talked to the guy there for a long time. I saw the Alamo, iconic, amazing, love the Alamo. Saw with Pee Wee Herman's bike, amazing, iconic. I love that movie. Just amazing, amazing place. But there's so many museums and things to do. It was just fabulous. I loved it. A little bit more pit bull than shepherd. Changing my mind on the pit bull breed, I was like, they seem to eat people a lot. Not sure about how I feel about that. But then there's the pit bulls in pajamas. I'm like, the pit bulls in pajamas, that's just too cute. I think Upton's a bit of a mix too, but then you see the pit bulls and they're, cuddling with the kitty cats and so nice, and then you see the other pit bulls ripping people's legs off. It's a confusing issue. I'll make another video about that. But Upton is the nicest, cutest dog. He's very shut down when we go. Very shut down, just wanting to be in the corner with his tail between his legs. But then he started getting really attached to me, and he started going roo, roo, roo every time I would leave the house. And not wanting to be in his crate. He just always wanted to be in his crate, but now he always wants to be with me, which is very cute. But we also need to get him a bit of independence so he can thrive in his new forever home. And yeah, he's a very sensitive sweetie. If the garbage can closes and it's too loud, he jumps out of his skin, but he's getting better with that too. He's getting more confident. He loves other dogs. He loves other dogs. That's what made him really light up and really get comfortable was having play dates with other dogs. And then we had a bit of like a sleepover with this little puppy named Aslan. Aslan, the best puppy, best temperament, brave, up for anything, just had like an intelligent, wise beyond his years look, but also like innocent and playful. Took him to a cafe and he would just laid calmly next to me, and like in a way that you would like train a dog for many months to do, and he just did that. And he's like a little puppy, and he's just been at the shelter with his siblings. He's never been in that environment before ever. He's just a star, and he was climbing trees. He was playing with Upton. Aslan the puppy is known for keeping up with the big dogs, and Upton was so excited. Sometimes he would jump from the couch onto Aslan in his excitement, just like completely catapult. He was very gentle with Aslan though. Upton is a very gentle dog, despite what my previous statement might make you think otherwise. Very gentle, but sometimes you get too excited and bulldoze. I know that's a thing that sometimes pit bulls do, or dogs in general. They get excited and bulldoze. The other day, he just ran right into my leg, bulldoze, and sometimes he bulldozed Upton, but Upton would bulldoze Aslan, the puppy, and Aslan would just shake himself off and continue playing. He was just a trooper. What a great puppy. Anyways, Upton, that just, he just lit right up. He was more comfortable at home, more comfortable with my husband, because at first he wasn't sure about how to feel about my husband. He's just like, I know he liked me, he loved me, but he wasn't sure about anybody else. But now he's opening up to other people, and it was great. It's great to see, and he's going to go to his forever home very soon, and I'm very happy, but I'm going to miss him. He's just the biggest, cutest snuggle bug ever. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit conflicted with how I feel about the Caribbean island I'm currently living on. I like walkable streets, cute little neighborhoods, cute little shops, seasons. That doesn't really exist here. It's just like hot highways. But the beaches are very nice. But I'm not a big beach bum. I love swimming, I like the beach, but sometimes, especially if you're going by yourself, because my husband's working a lot, so I'm doing a lot of stuff myself, and it's hard to meet people on a somewhat deserted island. No, it's not deserted, there's lots of people, but it's kind of whatever. It's hard to meet people. And not that I was good at meeting people anyways, whatever. Anyways, but you go to the beach by yourself and you just kind of sit in the water for a bit, and you're like, all right, now what? And then it's all sandy, and then you have to have your towel and you put it out on the sand, and it gets all sandy, and then you're worried about your stuff because you're in the water, no one's watching your stuff, and then your feet get all sandy, which is a sensory overload kind of thing for me, and it's hot, and it's like a whole thing. I kind of like going to the pool and just like doing laps, even though I do like the beach. I do like being outside. I prefer to have like a whole beach setup, ideally with multiple people. You have your thing, an umbrella, a picnic table, and you're kind of there with like your food, maybe a book, and it's like a all day social occasion. So I'm loving the fact that I have a lot of free time to do my art and whatever have you, and I do love taking care of the feral dogs on this island. But as far as I feel about the actual place itself, like the town and the stuff, I don't know. I don't know. The beaches are nice. I like the lizards, I like the frogs, I like the dogs. If I would have told my 7-year-old self, hey, one day you're going to be at a place with lots of dogs, lots of frogs, you would have been like, sign me up, I don't need to know anything else. That sounds like paradise. I feel like my 7-year-old self did manifest this situation for me somehow. I like being with my husband, I like the direction our life is going. Overall, things are really good and I'm happy. But I have mixed feelings about this place sometimes, I like a place with a little bit more je ne sais quoi. After this, we'll be moving to the States, which I'm super excited about. Not sure where in the States. There's a few potential options, but that'll be neat. So yeah, that's the gist of what's been happening with me. I hope everything's been going well with you. I hope this video was a little bit more entertaining than my last video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, year, life, whatever. Bye. Bye.